Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, and I am rocking our brand new Outkick shirts, which, if you have a brain and you are slowly being driven insane by all of the ridiculousness surrounding people being perpetually offended by things that aren't actually offensive in this country, I would encourage you to go buy your own version of this shirt. That is the Chicago Cubs connection, obviously, a response to the ridiculous, absurdity of the OK sign being considered racist. This is a satirical response to that. I'd hate for this shirt to start showing up in big numbers in Wrigley Field for all sorts of reasonable people who aren't in the grips of hysteria and absurdity coming out of social media to make the decision to go grab this. You can go get it at Outkick.com. We have sold a ton of them. This shirt is A-OK. I'd encourage you to go buy them again. Chicago with a mention here. So this is out there. Everybody go get them. I appreciate all of you for spending your Monday afternoon with me. Hopefully the triggered among you are right now shivering like Theo Epstein did when he was confronted with the OK hand gesture. Hopefully Theo was able to handle Brian Windhorst over the weekend, Steph and Clay. We got a lot to get to, but I want to start off, with Game of Thrones, where winter arrived, and I liked the episode. Only one episode remaining. I think it was the best episode of this season so far. Now, doesn't mean it was flawless. There are a couple of things I thought were ludicrous. One, I'll give you the things that I thought were ridiculous in this episode to begin with. First of all, Jamie has a golden hand. He is one of the most famous people in the history of the Kingdom of Westeros. He gets locked outside of the kingdom, and then he's like waving his golden hand over his head, and nobody notices it. Nobody's like, hey, wait a minute. There's the guy who used to be ahead of all the soldiers. There's one of the most famous men in the kingdom with a golden hand. Maybe we should let him in. All right? Thought that was a little bit strange. Second, Euron Greyjoy doesn't think that he might get attacked from behind. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems likely that maybe, just maybe, you should be prepared and have your ships facing different directions so that you're ready when you get attacked by the dragon. Last time we saw the dragon, that nobody could miss. I mean, we're talking about like the greatest shooting performance of all time by the Greyjoy and the fleet of the Iron Islands. They wiped out that dragon. This time, everybody can't hit anything. Nobody can get a shot on her remotely close. You would think that maybe, just maybe, you're prepared to defend yourself against the dragon by having the dragon shooters facing in different directions. Anyway, she gets wiped out there. And then Euron Greyjoy manages to swim to shore at the exact moment that Jamie arrives. And then he challenges him to a fight. Doesn't that seem a little bit strange that of all the places he could swim to, he swims to that exact beach at that exact moment, and then he gets into a fight with Jamie? I actually loved the ending. I thought it was a great way for Cersei to go. I know some people wanted to get a more violent end, but I thought that was perfect inside of basically the bottom part of the temple. The one thing I will say that I also didn't like about this episode, Arya has been saying she's going to kill Queen Cersei for years. Cersei is on her list of people to kill. She goes all the way to the palace, gets within about 500 yards of Queen Cersei, and suddenly decides, you know what, maybe I don't want to be here after all, and decides to turn and leave and almost dies outside. That to me seemed like a really ridiculous decision to suddenly change her mind on the fly like that after years of making an argument for that being the case. All right, so that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Having said that, I thought the pivot where Daenerys loses her mind was well seated. It made complete sense when it actually happened, even if none of us probably agreed with it, certainly. I thought that her having to choose fear over love was made about as explicit as it possibly could be. My prediction now is that I've come around. My wife has convinced me. Arya is going to kill Daenerys, probably while trying to protect Sansa. And then Jon Snow is going to turn into a recluse north of the Wall. It wouldn't stun me either if we get a little bit of a flash forward so that there's multiple years maybe even that take place in this final episode. Maybe Daenerys has a baby. Maybe there's another Targaryen born. Maybe Bran is sitting on the throne as King Regent. I think there are several people who are still in the mix that could end up on the throne. I think Arya could. I think it would not stun me if Sansa, Tyrion, Jon Snow, Daenerys even, if Gendry, if Arya. There are lots of different directions this could go, but I think the most likely is that it ends with, in my opinion, Sansa on the Iron Throne, maybe also married once more to Tyrion, with the two of them ruling together with Arya as the head of the army designed to defend them, and maybe with Davos as the hand of the king. So that potentially would be the direction that I would think it makes it most likely. That is what I thought of Game of Thrones. The season has not been, I think, what many had hoped it would be, and I think that's primarily because of the flaws in the plotting and the writing. The thing that disappoints me the most about Game of Thrones so far is they had nearly 2 years to get this right, and they have been unable to craft an ending that makes very much sense or even a storyline that's very coherent at all. So that's the direction that it goes. If Bran ends up on the throne, it's going to be very disappointing. I don't think there's any way to argue it. All right, Kawhi Leonard's shot. Maybe in NBA history, the biggest shot given the circumstances that we have ever seen to win a series, okay? At the buzzer. There has never been a Game 7 buzzer beater before. People get confused by this. There have been a lot of game-winning shots, but literally for the final shot to be there, hanging on the rim, to bounce multiple times, and to go in was an incredible ending for Kawhi and for the Raptors. All of Canada out here rooting for the Raptors, and Kawhi made it happen for them. Now, I think there's a couple of intriguing aspects here that are worth paying attention to. We now have effectively 3 different teams that the majority of the nation doesn't care about at all. All right? You got the Trailblazers, the Bucks, and the Raptors. I asked this question this morning on my show. Who are you rooting for now that we're down to 4 teams? And overwhelmingly, people are rooting for the Milwaukee Bucks. I was curious to see what the actual response would be. Overwhelmingly, you guys are rooting for the Milwaukee Bucks to make it happen. 46% of you with nearly 26,000 votes cast this morning. The Trailblazers in second place with 23% of the support. People, at least in my audience, are completely over the Warriors. The Warriors get 17% of the vote, and then the Raptors, Canada's team, gets 14% of the vote. So the Bucks and the Trailblazers are the most popular by far. Now, this will be intriguing because now is where a LeBron-less NBA begins to have a significant impact here, because usually this is where the casual fans start to come in to watch the Eastern and the Western Conference Finals when there's only one game going on every night and they alternate. This is when the casual fan kind of all goes in on one storyline. So the question that I have here is, how much are people going to care about the Milwaukee Bucks against the Toronto Raptors on a night-by-night basis? I think it's probably going to be pretty ugly. We'll see what ends up happening in terms of interest. And then on the other side, the Trailblazers against the Warriors, are people going to buy into that series? Either the worst-case scenario, the thing that would leave the NBA rights holders curled up in the fetal position whimpering, would be if somehow we ended up with Portland Trailblazers against the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm watching these games no matter what, right? I'm not watch the games depending on who plays, guys. I'm going to talk about it regardless because I got 3 hours of radio to do, and we're going to lead with it because it will still be the biggest show on the sporting calendar every night that it airs. But if we saw the Portland Trailblazers against the Raptors, or even the Golden State Warriors against the Raptors, I think these ratings will collapse. And the ratings will collapse in a big way for the same reason I've been telling you for a long time. The NBA doesn't have a league, they've got a player. And they've got LeBron James, and if LeBron James is not playing, then things get awry in a little bit. Now, if you want to have the bullish case here is Giannis is an incredible budding superstar that most people still don't know. Most people don't watch the Bucks. Most people don't watch regular season NBA. You become a star in the NBA if you advance to the Eastern or Western Conference Finals, or you go to the NBA Finals. That's when the masses come in and start to pay attention. Let me give you an example. There'll be like 17, 18, 20 million people who watch the NBA Finals games. There will be like 5 or 6 million who were watching before that at most, right? So you become a star if your team makes it to the NBA Finals and you get that large, massive distribution to the universe of basketball fans. And I think when basketball fans watch Giannis, they're going to be like, I love this guy. He is incredibly talented on the basketball court. Physically, he can do things that nobody potentially has ever been able to do at his size. He's also incredibly likable as a guy. And also, I got to give credit here, and I don't think we give enough credit to this. When he's interviewed, he's better in his non-native language than most athletes are in their native language. In other words, think about how hard it would be for you, whoever you are and wherever you live, to be interviewed in a second language immediately after a sporting event. You're standing there sweaty, you're trying to figure out what's going on, and Giannis is phenomenal in his second language. Giannis interviews better in his second language than the majority of pro athletes do in their first language. How about you? I took French. If you tried to interview me in French, I would be an unmitigated disaster on live French television trying to answer questions after a game. Most of you who took a second language in high school or in college would also be disasters if you had to get interviewed even about something simple like basketball or football or baseball right after a game in a second language. The guy absolutely dominates even in a second language. I think he's going to be incredibly likable, and certainly for a globalized NBA, having a European-based player who is as popular as Giannis is will be huge for the growth of the NBA. So Kawhi's shot, as big of a buzzer beater as we have ever seen in the history of the NBA. Again, Game 7 never happened before. Buzzer beater, not game-winning shot, but buzzer beater. It's literally never happened before. All right, I lost a substantial sum of money. I didn't even feel bad about it because the Warriors, the old school Splash Brothers, came out and dominated against the Rockets. Kawhi was great in the shot that he made, but the best performances all weekend, even CJ McCollum was great with the Trailblazers, but what Steph Curry did in the second half against the Houston Rockets on the road was old school take over a game, Steph Curry style performance. First half, Klay Thompson kept him in it. And I got to say, I thought the Rockets were going to win. I thought the Rockets were going to cover. This is a debilitating loss if you are a Houston Rockets fan, because this was your year. All last year, you argued if we hadn't gotten the Chris Paul injury, we would have won this series. We would have been the NBA champs. We got screwed by officiating. You couldn't have gotten a better break than Kevin Durant, the best player in the NBA, injuring himself and being guaranteed to miss Game 6 and Game 7. News already out that he's going to miss Game 1. I would be surprised if he comes back before Game 3. And honestly, if the Warriors go out, take care of business, and win Game 1 and Game 2, I think it's possible the Warriors sit out Kevin Durant until the next round in the NBA Finals, because I think they can beat the Portland Trailblazers without Durant, without needing to worry about him re-injuring himself. But the storyline here is an incredible performance by the old school Splash Brothers, but also, and I think this is intriguing and I think this is worth contemplating, look at how much Steph and Klay and Draymond are trying to recruit Kevin Durant to stay with the Warriors, even in their post-game comments. They are saying how good that Kevin Durant is, the fact that he's the best player on the team, all of these different comments designed to try to keep Kevin Durant in Golden State so they can continue to win even more championships. I think this was the NBA Finals. This was the Rockets against the Warriors for the NBA title. and the Rockets completely collapsed in a game that had been handed to them on a golden plate. This was unbelievable collapse by the Rockets. I lost a lot of money on it, but you know what? I was so impressed by how the Golden State Warriors played. I didn't even care about the money that I lost in this game. I just enjoyed sitting back, putting my feet up on Friday, and watching a great basketball game. But if I were a Rockets fan, I would be furious. All right, final subject before I go get ready to do Lock It In. John Beilein leaves Michigan to take over 5 years with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is an intriguing move. Beilein is one of the best coaches in college basketball, has been dominant at every level, and has continued to coach. And this is a wild stat. I think he started at D3, then went to D2, then went to D1, and now he's going to go to the NBA. He has worked his way up the entire process. He's rolling the dice in a big way that they're going to get a great player, either Ja Morant or certainly Zion Williamson if the Cavs get lucky in the draft lottery. And we will see what ends up happening here. But Michigan, I think, is a really good job in college basketball. And by the way, yes, somebody just said in the comments, this is a shot at our coach will never leave guy. One of the most frustrating things in college sports is how many people buy into the idea that their coach will never leave. Every year you have perpetual college coaching free agency, and there's always the guy out there who believes that his coach will never leave. And he says the coach will never leave because they really like it there. The grandparents move to be closer to the kids. They love the school. The wife doesn't want to leave. You know what ends up happening almost always? Either the coach gets fired or he decides to leave. Almost across the board, that happens everywhere eventually, okay? And so Beilein was an ultimate, our coach will never leave guy, and then he leaves to take over the Cleveland Cavaliers, 5-year guaranteed deal. Now, Michigan, I think, is a great basketball job. Why is it a great basketball job? There isn't very much pressure because, by and large, still, most of the attention goes to Michigan football. And it's a fertile recruiting region. You have a great program with solid support that doesn't have that high of expectations. So I think this is the kind of job that somebody could really like in Ann Arbor, which, other than the weather, is a great place to live and raise a family. So if I were out there, I'd be swinging for the fences now for Michigan to try to replace John Beilein. I would be going out there and trying to get the best possible coach you can. I'd get Brad Stevens on the phone. I think he probably says no. I would shoot for the absolute sky. I would get Billy Donovan on the phone and see if he would say yes to this job in the wake of how OKC season ended. I would swing at those two guys first and foremost, be my top two coaching candidates. If both of those guys said no, then I would start to work through the process to figure out who might be there. I think Michigan can afford to pay $5 million a year. This is one of the highest paying jobs in college basketball. That would be a Brinks truck move if I've ever seen one. You don't know what the buyout situation is on a lot of different coaches out there, but I think Michigan's a top job, even if it coming open in May like this. I would also go after Greg Marshall at Wichita State. This is a primo job that I think can make a lot of sense. Maybe make a call to Bruce Pearl. Hell, Rick Barnes was willing to leave for UCLA. I don't think he would leave for Michigan. Might as well make the call. I don't know. Do we know what Rick Barnes' buyout is now? Might as well make the call and see what he says. Regardless, great job, and I would definitely be nervous about losing Beilein if I'm a Michigan fan because he's so good, but I think it's a call that's worth having with everybody out there. All right, I love all of you. I've got to go hop on my television show now. I'll be on Lock It In. We're giving you some gambling picks for the PGA Championship, also getting you ready for the Western and Eastern Conference in the NBA. We'll have a lot of fun with it, as we always do. Rachel Bonetta will probably be talking a lot of trash over her Raptors winning and Kawhi Leonard's big shot. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Coverage. Kisses to all of you. Just had to kill a man on Fox Sports Radio in the morning, but right now on Periscope and Facebook. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go buy the shirt, by the way. Shirt's up, outkick.com. Go buy it. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.